In the fabled land of Northern California, nestled in the Valley of Sacramento, two friends begin a journey to enlighten the world about their experience living life as a Xennial. But what is a Xennial, you may ask? If you wish to know, then follow them on their adventures.
Welcome to the Xennial Chronicles. This is James.
This is Mike.
And we're a day late with our recording. Had a mishap here at my house. Electronic devices not working right for everybody for a while. But specifically, the funny part about this is I actually got my electronic devices to work finally yesterday. And my wife got her vehicle back from the dealership that was doing repairs and stuff on it.
Oh, good.
Warranty repairs, luckily covered under warranty.
Oh, good.
They did almost $7,000 worth of repairs, and I paid like less than $500 for my share of it.
I mean,
that was nice.
That's pretty good.
That was, well, especially when you're still making a payment on the damn thing. You don't want to be out the $7,000 to fix it.
Right.
When that's like,
that'll take you right out of enjoying a new car.
Yeah, I mean, that's maybe half of what the car is worth, or what you're still paying on the car. So it's like, but so it was a happy day in that my wife got her car back, which we had a loaner, a rental, almost new Toyota Tacoma pickup truck. And she was excited when she got in it because it's new, it's flashy, they're pretty. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about with the look of the Toyota Tacomas, the newer ones. It's a pretty looking truck.
It is.
But for somebody who drives trucks, I know you drive an SUV. You have an SUV as at least one of your vehicles.
Yeah.
When you're in an SUV or a truck or even a van, you usually have a pretty good amount of leg room, and specifically your seat is high enough off of the floorboards that you're kind of almost like you're sitting at your chair at your desk. You have your legs almost can do a 90-degree bend, and your feet can touch the floor and whatnot. You have some room.
Yeah,
right?
you got some wiggle room. You're not like, because the car I usually drive is, as would probably most people at this point in time, I drive a tiny car because it gets good gas mileage, so it's very cramped.
I've been in your car, and it is quite tiny.
Yes, it's very small.
It's smaller than my car, and my car's named Mini, and it's still bigger than yours.
This is true. But the SUV is a nice ride. Like whenever my wife and I go and go grocery shopping and it's in town, because it's in town and we don't want to be uncomfortable, we take the big car because we can. And also, we're going grocery shopping, so we're going to spend,
I mean, where would you actually put groceries in your car?
That's what you'd think, but there's a lot of bodies fit into that trunk.
I mean, literally, it's two seats in a trunk. That's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all your car is two seats in a trunk. I'm not disparaging for anybody listening. It does the job, and it's better than it's a lot better than the vehicle that Mike used to drive around all over the place. That he still has, by the way.
It's not dead.
It still runs.
Yep, it's not dead.
It's a zombie SUV that still runs.
Yep. And that thing was great because I was able to huck my gear when I was doing shows in it.
If it would make it there, yes. Although it had a better track record than the bus did. So,
oh man, yeah.
There's that. But anyway, when you get in a truck, like in a truck SUV, you think you got a little more leg room. You're going to sit up a little bit higher. This truck, it was high up off the ground because it had big tires on it. It was nice because it was the 4-wheel drive option, which doesn't mean anything to me because I'm not a 4-wheel drive guy. Mm-hmm. I don't want to ever buy a 4-wheel drive truck or SUV or anything. One, we don't live anywhere where it snows, and even if it does snow here, like I'm not leaving my house, not because I can't drive in the snow, because everybody else in Northern California, at least in the Northern California Valley, you get higher up where it actually does snow. They do know what they're doing. But everybody in the Valley, especially around the city of Sacramento, if it snowed, they would all freak out. They would have no idea how to drive. They can barely drive in the rain.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Like there was one specific time that I remember that it snowed in Sacramento that, I mean, God, was it like 20 years ago or something like that? I thought it snowed recently and people freaked out, but like 20 years ago is the first time I saw snow in Sacramento, and I could not believe what I was seeing. still to this day, it just didn't make any sense to see outside. And then it was gone by noon because it's Sacramento. So,
oh yeah, even in the middle of winter, it's like snow. The 3 inches that you're going to get, it's gone. Not even 3 inches. The 1 inch that you're going to get,
exactly.
It's gone. It's going to melt. And that's just it. There's almost to say that we've ever really gotten snow here, even in the times that we have. Because I know it's happened I know it happened at the house I lived in previous to this one, so it's happened within the last 10 years that there's been enough snow to stick here in this area.
Mm-hmm.
But that happened in my area. It may not have happened in Sacramento. But even the snow that sticks, it's only there for a few hours, and it's not even a full inch. It's like a quarter of an inch, if that. And people go into total freak out mode when it's doing that, when it comes to driving. And anybody that actually lives in an area when it snows, if we were to be saying, oh yeah, it snowed here, they'd be laughing at us. It's like when somewhere else has like an earthquake that's a 3.0 and they're like, oh my God, we had an earthquake. And we're like, I wouldn't have even woken up for that. I wouldn't have even, nope. That's not even registering for me. It's gotta be 5, 6 or above for me to even notice it. I could just think maybe it's the rumblings of my stomach. I'm a little hungry. No, it was an earthquake. Are you sure? I think I was just hungry. But it's that kind of a thing, trying to say that we really have gotten snow. But again, 4-wheel drive, great for the snow. If you don't have a 4-wheel drive in the snow, if you find yourself stuck in the snow without one, make sure you drive the car that you have that's a front wheel drive, because then at least all the weight of the vehicle is over the wheels.
Right.
And then you're going to get more traction. You never want to drive around in a rear wheel drive, especially again, since we're talking about pickup trucks, you don't drive a pickup truck that's a rear wheel drive, as many of them are, as the majority of them are, that aren't 4-wheel drive.
Right.
Don't drive that in the snow. Unless you have like a shit ton of concrete or sand or something in the back to weigh it down, because you have zero traction.
Right.
But anyway, it's this rental truck, nice truck, 4-wheel drive. It's the TDR or TRD, whatever. TRD, Toyota Racing Development. So it's got all the extra packages in it and whatnot.
They've been putting that in there for decades now.
Yeah. So, when my wife drove it home, she was excited. She wanted me to try it out. I hopped in it. First thing I noticed, it was high up to get into, which, okay, it's a truck. You expect that.
Right.
But what you don't expect is how low the top of it is. The top of the cab is super low. And you're sitting, the seat is sitting on the floorboard. You have as much clearance from the top of from the seat to the floorboard as you have in my Mini.
Oh.
It's like having to hop up into my Mini. Now you have to set yourself down in my Mini, and my Mini has more headspace, more space, from to the top of the roof of the thing than this thing did. So I was like, okay, this feels like a passenger car was put on top of a truck chassis. I'm not okay with this. Now there are some people that might like this. I don't. If I'm getting in a truck, I want to know I'm in a freaking truck.
Yeah,
I don't want to think I'm in a car that is masquerading.
I don't think there's anybody that I know of that gets into a truck and doesn't want it to feel like a truck. Like everyone I know that gets a truck, that's all crazy about trucks, are crazy about trucks because they're large, they're spacious, they're comfortable. You could haul shit in it. Like that's why you get a truck.
Adding insult to injury, this is one of those that has the 4-foot bed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is like a 4-foot bed. I'm just going to say it right now. A 4-foot bed is freaking useless on a truck.
Yeah.
I could haul, other than height, I could haul as much in the back of my Mini as that could be hauled in the back of this truck.
How tall is this truck? Like, how tall is it to get into? How tall would you think it is?
I can say this much. I just step up. You've seen and been in the Ford truck that I have.
Yes.
Technically not mine. Technically it's the grandmother's who lives in the house, but I've driven it for years.
Okay. Yes.
It's higher off the ground than that Ford truck.
Really?
But it's the same height as the Ford truck. Actually, it's a little shorter than the Ford truck, but it's higher off the ground. So the cab higher. The cab's a good 6 to 8 inches shorter than the cab on the truck.
So maybe it sits higher. It actually is short. It sits high, it's short, and it's got a 4-foot bed in it?
Yeah.
You can't carry 2x4s and plywood in that thing barely.
No, you can't. I mean, plywood's 8 foot.
Right.
So you need at least a 6 foot bed and drop the either have it popping out the.
I was going to say you're dropping the tailgate on everything you haul in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it requires you to get the little tailgate railing so that you can actually haul shit in it.
To be honest, I don't think it's designed. I think these are the Toyota trucks that are designed for people who want to look like they're driving a truck, but don't want to actually drive a truck.
Are they cheaper than those size trucks?
No. They're more cheaper than a big like 6 foot bed truck. Oh yes, they're cheaper
right. Yeah,
than
are they cheaper than a properly useful truck? Is the question.
Yes, they are cheaper than a properly useful truck. But I think this is a status symbol truck, not a status symbol young people truck that for people that don't really need a truck but want to be known to be driving a truck. If that makes sense.
So it's a pickup in name only, huh?
It's a poser truck, basically.
Poser truck, okay.
But then I take it to go driving around, and I'm thinking, okay, it's got a V6 in it, so. Let's see. I'm used to driving my wife's van, which is also a Toyota van.
Wait a minute.
That thing is.
It's got a 4 foot bed. It's short. It sits high, and it's only got 6 cylinders in it.
Well, that's. I mean, my. Hold on a second. Having 6 cylinders in a truck isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Really?
We're talking about a smaller pickup truck. 6 cylinders can be okay. It depends on your purpose for the truck. If you're a hauler, I was going to
say, like, you need 8.
Right?
You need 8. Like, if you're actually hauling shit, you need 8. If you want a truck, you need to have a V8.
Yeah, if you're doing a trailer or something like that. Now, if you're just hauling some toys, like if you're hauling some jet skis or a small boat, because boats are fairly light, or you're hauling motorcycles or ATVs or something like that,
right?
You're okay with a V6. That's fine. But if you're going to haul any kind of like a camping trailer or anything big like that, you definitely want a V8 for some power. And I was hoping with a V6, and again, my wife's van has a V6 in it, and that thing is amazing because you get in the van and you're thinking to yourself, this is a van. It's going to be slow accelerating. It's not going to turn well. It's not going to. Oh my God. My wife's van is huge and spacious, like you expect a van to be, tons of room, but it rides like just kind of a fluffy car. It accelerates like you wouldn't even believe. I'm talking. I don't care how short the on ramp is for the freeway. You will be up to freeway speed. Not a problem. You put the accelerator down and it goes. You need to pass somebody, just slight inclination and you're zooming past people. You got to watch yourself in this van because it will get away from you. It's got bursts of speed and it rides so smooth at any speed. You can be going 10 miles an hour. You can be going 75, 80. It has the same smooth ride either way. And a little bit top heavy in comparison to a car because it is a van. So turns, you got to slow down a little, maybe 5 miles an hour more than you would in a car. Or in my case, 20 miles an hour slower than you do in my car. But the point is, it's still a really good van. I mean, it's very nice, very cushy, very comfortable, but also has a lot of power. I went to try to accelerate around cars passing people in this truck, and it was sluggish and slow. And the only thing, I mean, I was disappointed. I was like, if this is a truck, what the hell? You step on the accelerator on a truck, it's supposed to respond and you're supposed to go. It wasn't going at all. It was just slow and creeping. And the only thing I could think later was maybe the way the transmission is set up is to convert all the power into pulling power. And that's what it's designed to do, is have what little pulling power it's going to get out of that 6-cylinder engine. But, ended up not very happy with the truck to the point, my wife wasn't happy with it to the point that she stopped driving it. It was the rental to replace her vehicle. And the moment she could, she stopped driving it and it sat in our driveway and she just drove my car around.
Oh, everywhere. That's funny.
She's like, your car is so much better than that truck. I'm like, okay, but you still love your van, right? Give me a little side glance. Sure. I'm like, oh, damn it.
Oh,
She's gonna steal my
no.
car.
Oh,
Well,
no.
she got her car back yesterday, and she was enthusiastic. She was so happy. It even rode better than it used to, and especially after the debacle with this truck, she was like, "Oh, I'm so glad to have it back." I'm like super glad, like so glad it's better than my car for you to drive. Oh yes, it's better than your car. I'm like, fantastic. That's all I need to hear.
Good. Then it's settled.
So she got her car back, and you were a part of my journey for the last couple of days as announcement for our listeners. I've talked many times about how I am really anti-technology. I have issues with it. I have tech people that do things for me. I don't like to watch YouTube videos or Google things. I just get a guy to do it for me, right? Hasn't that
Essentially,
been the theme lately?
Mm-hmm.
Well, having grown tired of doing my work from home on I'm going to say this is a 14-inch laptop screen. Might be bigger than that.
Oh my God.
Maybe it's bigger. Maybe it's maybe no.
That's insanely small.
No, maybe it's bigger than a 14. Maybe it's a 16, which does make a difference. That and then the monitor that I was using was a 22-inch monitor.
Mm-hmm.
An old Acer 22-inch monitor. And when I say old, it still only had in it the what are the old monitor hookups? VGA hookups, right? Is that what they're called?
Yes. So the original, you're talking the little blue 15-pin guy, little tiny one,
with the little
with
all the
screw
little
holes on
pokies inside.
Yep. Yeah, that's a VGA hookup.
Yeah, the hairbrush inside.
The hairbrush, yes.
Yeah, that's the only hookup this monitor had. So it's an older monitor. Not super old, but still older monitor.
Right.
So I was using that and a laptop screen, and I had that the monitor up on one riser, and I had to actually angle the riser. The risers they have 3 heights to them.
Okay.
It's got the legs with the little button clicky in them. You know, you push the button in and slide the outer tubing, and it's got holes in it, and the button goes into another piece. I'm sure they have a specific name for that type of device, but I call it the button legs.
Okay.
You know, they used to be on like folding tables and whatnot.
Right.
So I had to actually these risers had 3 settings, 3 holes for the buttons to go into. The way this monitor was set up, though, it leaned forward. So I couldn't make it lean backwards or lean even appropriately, just be flat. So I had to raise the front side of the riser. It was on 2 clicks and the two holes, and the back was on 1 hole. So the riser was slanted so that the monitor would sit flush. You know, the monitor would sit.
Okay, so you tilt the riser back so that the monitor sat right.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I had to have
that shouldn't
the laptop
need to be done.
Huh?
I said that shouldn't need to be done.
No, it shouldn't need to be. But it was a monitor that was given to me to be able to use 2 monitors for the work, because as you know from your work, 2 monitors is helpful. As you know from the work that your wife does, which is similar but more involved than what I do. That's the right way to put it, right? It is similar,
to a degree.
More, hers is definitely more involved. She does a much higher level than what I do. 2 monitors is kind of necessary because you really, instead of having to go back and forth between tabs and remember information, it's really good to have information on one monitor so that you can input it in another window on the other monitor, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of nice. So I was using the 2 monitor system, but I had to use a laptop because I didn't have a desktop computer. The only thing I had was one of my 2 laptops that was functional enough to actually connect and work from home. So to get these screens to sit where they were, even though they were 2 completely different size screens, and one's a laptop screen and one's a regular computer screen, so the colors aren't the same, the brightness isn't the same. You know what I mean?
Right.
No matter how much I fiddled with it, I could not get them to look the same. But to get them even on a pair, where their midline was close to each other, so that I didn't have to look at one and then look down at the other one. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I had to have the laptop on two risers, one that was up all the way to 3, and then another one on top of that that was at 1, and then I could have the two monitors at least have close to, not exact, but close to the same midline. But even still, I was looking from a big monitor to a little tiny monitor, and it was like, this is just not good. And I've been doing this for almost 3 months now. And so I'm like, you know what? This is not good. I know I'm going to be doing this. I'm apparently making the people at work happy because they seem to like me. My coworkers seem to like me, and my supervisor seems to like me. And they say I'm doing good and catching on fairly quickly. So I was like, all right, I can make the investment for the first time in years. I mean, I can't say that because I did buy a laptop, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right when I started, right about the time I started my college, because we didn't have a computer in the house that really worked. I think we had another older laptop that my wife uses exclusively for our for iTunes and for printing out pictures for things. That's all she uses it for.
Oh yeah,
it does nothing else but iTunes and pictures, and it barely does that. But I bought one for school. And I ended up not using it. My kids ended up using it until their schools provided them with Chromebooks to bring home to do the distance learning. So I bought a computer right kind of before the start of COVID, and it really was very useful. But that was the first time I'd really bought a computer in years. And a desktop, I think the last time we bought a desktop computer was 15 years ago. And so when you bought a desktop computer back then, it usually came, at least for people like me who is not a computer person, you'd go to a store and buy the package that's got the computer and the monitor and all the stuff in it together.
Right.
Because
don't know any better. That's how long ago it's been, huh?
That's how long ago it's been.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, like that kind of package still does happen, but most of the time when you get an all-in-one like that, you're getting... I mean, there's always been the options, there always has been. But it's
but it wasn't. The thing is, those options were there for people who knew what they were doing with computers.
Right.
For somebody like me who would just get a computer, literally the only things I used computers for previous was typing things, searching the internet before you had phones that could do it, and back then it was if you wanted to have your MySpace page, you had to get online to do that through a computer. You couldn't do it through phones yet. Although, could you ever do MySpace through phones? I don't know. By the time I got a phone that could access the internet and do all that stuff,
Facebook was the app that was on the phone. Yeah.
So, but that's kind of all that I really used it for. Downloading, tablature for songs I want to learn how to play.
Yes.
Downloading character sheets for Dungeons and Dragons. And running, I still have an old program that was an old Dungeons and Dragons program where you could do character generation and map generation and that kind of stuff. Create, I made a bunch of maps on those.
For as much as you have been relatively into, certain types of pop culture, most types of pop culture, especially nerd culture in general, big into D&D, big into theater, big into
Marvel and Star Wars,
comics, cartoons, like that kind of stuff. As much as you were into, I am quite shocked that as much as that is relatively integrated into, and even for like the years and years that happened before computers became more and more mainstream, right? The years that were happening before that, it was computer integration into those cultures were like a constant. That was a regular thing.
Well, and here's the thing. All the friends that I had computers. All of them did. Every single one of my friends had computers and knew a whole bunch about computers.
So you didn't have to?
Well, no. We never had a computer. My parents did not own a computer until I was 19.
What? Really? Did they just refuse to own one because they thought it was unnecessary?
It was unnecessary for them. They had no purpose for it. They literally had no reason to have a computer until I was 19. Other than me needing it for school And that was not enough of a reason, because back then you're thinking that to get a home computer, people were paying $1,200 to $1,500. That was an unnecessary expense for my family. Even $500, if they found something cheap, would have been an unnecessary expense.
The average cost of a computer was always kind of, it never hit, like, don't get me wrong, there were some of those, like, if you're talking like state of the art shit, yeah. But your standard home family computer that did very simple stuff was never particularly costly, aside from like when they first came out in like the early to mid 80s. Like that's when they were Cadillacs, man. It was a Cadillac to own a computer, like it was a Cadillac to own like a high-end record player or a new car. Like that was.
No, I mean my family during my teenage years. The only reason that we lived in a house is because somebody died. I'm not even joking. That's not even hyperbole.
That's so morbid.
Someone died. Yeah, we lived in a really, really crappy 2-bedroom apartment in a really bad part of town. I mean, bad enough that like literally woke up one morning to walk out the door for police cars were parked all over the street. And by the way, you couldn't park on the street. You had there was minimal parking in back in a kind of carport situation, but you really couldn't park on the street because cars were always parked there for other purposes, and you also had to worry about something happening to your car if you left it parked on the street. It was very possible that it was going to have the windows smashed in and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But you wake up one morning and go out the door to find cop cars flooding the street, because right across the street from, and it wasn't even an apartment complex either. It was just a whole street full of fourplexes. Every building was a fourplex.
Oh yeah.
So you had 2 apartments downstairs, 2 apartments upstairs.
Yep.
Right across the street from our specific fourplex building, which luckily we were downstairs in the back. So that was there was at least a few walls that things would have had to go through. But they were cleaning up. The remains of the body, and there wasn't really much remains of the head because it was blown off with a shotgun.
Oh, good Lord! Okay, I was gonna say, like, I had situations and stuff happen like near or at my house where people were. There was a guy who was arrested on my front lawn after a high-speed chase once.
Yeah, I know somebody got their face blown off.
Wow! Holy shit!
So
that's up there, man.
It was not a good neighborhood. I was in, there was 2 bedrooms. One bedroom was basically mine, although what basically consisted of was, how waterbeds used to have drawers underneath them. The old waterbeds they had like those they had the wooden bases, and some of them you could get, the nicer ones that had drawers underneath.
Oh yeah.
So my parents took in, and they had previous, when things were a little better financially, they had previous 2 twin-size waterbeds that had those drawers underneath them. Okay. So that'd be a total of 4 sets of drawers. There were 3 drawers on each side. They actually stacked 2, basically a set on top of each other. So there were 2 kind of dressers almost made out of these waterbed drawers, because that's what we didn't have dressers in our rooms in the previous house before things kind of went bad financially.
Right.
We didn't have dressers in our rooms because we had these beds that had them, but there's no room to put the water beds up. So we made 2 dressers out of these, and one of the dressers, 6 drawers. That was my sister's dressers. My 2 sisters. They kept all their clothes in there. On top of that, they kept all their toys. The other set was my clothes. I was older, so I had more clothes and bigger clothes. Right. And I slept on top of that.
On top of your dresser?
Yes, with no there wasn't a mattress. I basically slept on a bunch of strategically placed pillows on top of that.
Wow.
And so my sisters basically they slept in the living room. We had a hide-a couch. Actually, you remember the hide-a couch. The couch that was in mine and my wife's first apartment, that gigantic couch that we did not, I don't think did we make it upstairs to the second apartment? I don't remember if we got it all the way upstairs for the second apartment. Because it came to the house, the house that we lived in right when we got married. It came there, but that was the last place it came.
What did you do? You put it in like storage or something, or because I know that apartment was an upstairs apartment. I don't remember that couch. being
But you remember
in the living room.
You remember it from the first apartment, right?
I remember from the first apartment, but I don't remember that couch being in the living room. My memory could be completely shot though. That was like a while back.
The only thing I remember is the brown leather chair. That was my chair.
Ah, yes.
I remember that. But you do still remember the couch that was in the first apartment. That gigantic, huge My Name is Earl couch.
Yes.
It is in the show My Name is Earl. The exact same couch.
Oh my god.
Couch he has.
That's
It freaked
amazing.
me out the first time I watched him. I watched him like smacking my wife on the arm. Look. She goes, "Oh my god, that's your parents' old couch." I'm like, "I know. It's awesome." Very authentic. But no, that couch was a hide-a-bed. It had a mattress underneath, and fold out mattress. That's why it was heavy as shit. My sisters slept on that, as did my father, because my sisters weren't quite ready at that point in their lives to sleep by themselves at night. This is a time when my father had gotten sick, wasn't working. My mother was working, so she would sleep in the bedroom because there was 2 bedrooms. She slept in what was kind of the master bedroom, but it was really just the other bedroom. She slept in there so that she could do her 2-hour commute to work her 8 hours, and then do her 2-hour commute home.
Ah, okay.
And so, it was bad. We didn't have a lot of money. We were, things were in very short supply. That was the Christmas where I think the biggest gift that I got was a Nintendo game. And this was in like 90, this would be 92, 93.
Okay.
So, there's already newer things, but Nintendo was all that I had.
Yeah.
The Nintendo game I got was Punch-Out.
Wow. Wait, which one? Was it Mike Tyson version or Mr. Dream version?
It was Punch-Out, not Mike Tyson version.
Wow. So you're like one of the few people I know of that got the post Mike Tyson Punch-Out.
It was only $15.
Yeah, it's because it was like a classics or a Nintendo Classics version or something like that. Yeah, the licensing for Mike Tyson's likeness was expired, and it was coming up like right on I think it was Tyson's rape charges or something like that happened around that time, or I can't remember if it was sexual battery or if it was rape, or it was super fucked up charges is what happened. Like, I know that guy's seen kind of a resurgence of celebrity in past, but he was a fucked up dude back in the day. However, it was like Nintendo was going to renew the license, and then the charges came out, and then they decided not to. So then they just replaced him with a white guy in the last like run of the Punch-Out games, because Punch-Out was super famous on its own merit.
Yeah, and so that was my big gift for Christmas that year, was this $15 game. That was the most that my parents could afford that year. It's also, I think, the only year we actually had a real tree, and my older brother had actually gotten it for us and brought it to us.
Oh wow!
Because we didn't have a tree otherwise. It was bad times. So when my grandmother, my dad's mother, passed away unexpectedly. In fact, the day that we're recording this is actually her birthday.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So I hear you, Grandma. You're talking to me, and I see you through the haze of the cigarette smoke. That woman would. I think there is proof, or there was proof, that she died with a cigarette in her hand, because that's who she was.
Wow. That was the word, huh?
Yeah, that's who she was. But anyway, she passed away unexpectedly, and it was only a couple of days after her birthday. We figure it was maybe 3 days after her birthday that she passed away. So that means three days from now, it will have been, let me do the math here, 28 years.
Wow.
28 years. 28 years ago, she passed away. And my dad, being the only kid, he inherited a 3-bedroom, triple-wide mobile home on 2.5 acres of property, 3 hours away from anything any of us ever knew for life. Because my dad had been born and raised in the Bay Area place that we were in, as had my mother. They lived in adjoining cities their entire lives. Really hadn't lived anywhere else. So, doesn't matter. When you're living in that condition and suddenly you have a house, even if it's a mobile home, still mobile homes are nice houses. I still to this day love wood paneling. It's one of the reasons I like sitting at my desk. It's like there's a wall of wood for this desk, and it kind of reminds me of my teenage years in the wood paneling mobile home. But, we moved into this house, and the only thing probably the only thing that saved us from our lives being so much worse was my dad inheriting a house, and finally he had security for his family. He was able to keep a roof over their heads and not have to worry about it. But even still, great, we had a roof over our heads, so we didn't have to pay for rent anymore, which is nice. And it was a fully paid for house, so the only thing you paid for were taxes on the land. And interestingly, mobile homes, because they're not technically homes, because they're technically considered vehicles still, you don't pay taxes on them like you do your house. You pay registration and tags on them.
Really?
Like you do a vehicle. Yeah, it's really neat. So you still have to pay the government something for it. It's not.
But it's like a once-a-year deal. Yeah, but you pay the tax on the property that the home is on, right?
Exactly, but the thing is, the property is only valued as the property, whatever the size of the property is and whatever's on it.
Oh my God! So normally, like mobile home property is, so you're buying when you buy a mobile home, you're basically just purchasing a car that stays there. Basically, and so you're paying like a ridiculously small amount in comparison to a house, and then the property tax is so small it's almost nothing in comparison.
Property tax isn't small depending on the location, depending on what the property.
Well, right. I mean, that's kind of universal, but think about it. Like, what is a mobile home going to be on? Like an acre, a half acre?
Depends on the situation. Up where my dad's house is, people have properties that are, anywhere from 2.5 acre size up to 15, 20 acres, and they'll put a mobile home on there without even a second thought. Nowadays, many of them have upgraded into the modular homes, which then become actual real homes. Wow. But because there's a difference between them, it has to do with the basic structures and whatnot of the homes. But what it comes down to is mobile homes are still very prevalent in that area. And if you have a 15 acre property, you can have a mobile home, and it can be a very, very nice mobile home, but it's still a mobile home, so it's treated differently. On the flip side of that, if you are trying to get, say, take a loan out on your property, on your home, the mobile is worthless to take a loan out on. Just like taking a loan out on one of your vehicles, you're going to get very little out of it because it's not considered, solid property in the same way that a house is. So if you're wanting to get like as people get older, they get those reverse mortgage things on their property. Only the land property and the value of the land property you can use as the collateral for something like that. The mobile home is basically worthless in those scenarios.
Interesting.
So it's a weird kind of different way. I know that when the time ever comes, if my dad ever wants to sell, he already knows he's probably getting nothing for the mobile home.
Right.
He's going to be selling for the land cost because the mobile home is old enough and beat up enough that it's literally whoever buys it is probably going to come in, raise the mobile home completely from the ground and build something else in there or put something else.
Right.
in there,
right.
Which is fine, whatever. Once he sells it, it doesn't matter anymore. But point being, it's just kind of a weird way that those things are different and the values of them work. But yeah, so my teenage years, we lived in this place because my dad, inherited it, so it didn't cost him anything. And that was fantastic. That again helped us get through that time where we didn't have really anything. I mean, you can imagine, even in the, we're talking in the 90s, my mother was working minimum wage jobs, basically, or slightly above minimum wage jobs, with a family of 5. Jesus. So and she was the only one working. So yeah, we didn't have any money for anything. We had very, very little.
Dude,
money.
Can't even afford rent for one person on a full-time minimum wage job now.
Barely. Nowadays, yes.
Yeah, you can't even do that. And your mom supporting a family of 5, being the only one working on just above minimum wage, that is insane as a concept now. That sounds completely out there.
Well, and again, we got by. We always had food in our stomachs. We always had food in the cabinets. We never went without food. we didn't get all the luxuries that everybody else got. And
Right.
when we did, we got, lower quality versions of it. I mean, when I finally got a CD player, a stereo that was a CD player, believe me, I got the least expensive one humanly possible. But I took care of that shit so that nothing would happen to it. When PlayStation came out, I got a Sega Genesis because Sega Genesis dropped in price. And so I was able to get a Sega Genesis instead of a PlayStation.
I had a split family growing up, and I had one set of parents that tended to kind of work their credit up a lot, and then the other set of parents that absolutely did not do that. The goals between both sets of parents at that time period were entirely different. I had one set of parents that was looking to own a house, own multiple houses, that kind of a thing. Like, they wanted to get into real estate, but they wanted to do it on their own dime. That set of parents is the one that I stayed with the most when I was growing up. And it was that set of parents that was more fiscally conservative minded. So where I would have, like, say, I would have the Super Nintendo at one set of parents' house. I still had the, old Nintendo at the other one, and that old Nintendo was split between like 3 kids. You know what I mean? So, like, I know what you're talking about. It's kind of funky because I kind of got sort of this. I got 2 different experiences, and I never equate those experiences to other people. I don't know anybody else that had that kind of experience that I did.
Oh no, I know a lot of people that did. Actually, it's more common to have the 2 different experiences like that, and especially to have one family where you had a little bit more and it was more of your individual stuff, and then the other family where you had to share more of your stuff.
Right.
That's actually more of a common thing with our generation than what my story is of having the same parents who were still married until my mom died when I was almost 32. I mean, literally, my parents said the whole, I mean, they did it in Reno too, but they said the whole till death do us part, and that's what happened. One of them died.
Well, I mean, there you go. Yeah.
Didn't happen before that. And so it's actually more of a rarity for me to have grown up in a household where I had both of my parents my entire childhood. And, I think it's informed me in the way that I deal with my life differently than what even my older brothers who came from my dad's first marriage and a split family. Mm-hmm. It's the differences in the way you see certain things and the way you can be about certain things. I do want to stress, it doesn't mean that you're more or less successful in relationships of your own. That depends on what you saw as your models, regardless of whether you were in a single family or you had the dual family situation. If you have good models in any one of them, then you can use those as your kind of benchmarks to what you need to do in your own relationship. But I can say personally, it was helpful to me to see the dynamic between the 2 of them and the way that they did things with and for each other, the way that they fought with each other, the way that they worked through the various issues. And they taught me as much what I should do and as much what I shouldn't do. Because they were by no means perfect as people, because they were people like everybody.
Well, right, yeah, exactly. That's kind of like one of the points that I wanted to touch on. I think regardless of what experience you had as a kid and what your example of relationship is, even as you grow up, depending upon that like framework that you experience, it tells you how to prioritize. There's a certain amount of that tells you it forms your priorities in a relationship. But one of the things that is a constant between both types of situations is that everybody is flying by the seat of their pants. Nobody knows all the answers, and it's okay to recognize that.
I'd agree to an extent. I know all the answers, but that's just which is funny. I say it that way because I think 2 weeks ago we were talking about oh gosh, me and having arrogance about certain things, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fairly arrogant, and my sister-in-law was kind of raising her eyebrows like, fairly arrogant? You're super arrogant. Like, okay, I'll give you that one. You're right. I am, and I'm a super know-it-all. But anyway, back to the original point. At that time in our life, there was no way we were affording a computer. There was no money to afford one. And the lifestyle my parents lived, I can say there was no necessity for us to have one other than me writing papers for high school, writing essays for high school. That is the only thing that would have been helpful to have a computer for. There was literally nothing else that was being done in our lives during that time period that we needed a computer for.
Okay, so I got a question for you, because that's actually that touches on a good point, a fair point. I literally had, when I was in middle school and high school, I literally had to use a computer in order to type some essays and stuff. I was doing it in 5th grade. And the teacher was requiring that you write those essays typed out on printer paper and everything else. Like, it was a requirement of the teacher in order to do it that way. How did you get around that? What, did you go hand type shit in a library?
First of all, I didn't have that issue until I got into high school. But keep in mind, high school for me started in 1994. So, because I am a few years older than you.
Right.
It wasn't until then they required things to be typed. You could have everything handwritten before then.
Did your high school start with 8th grade or 9th grade?
Mine started with 9th grade.
Okay, 9th grade and 94. Okay. I ended up, I started high school in 97, so that makes sense.
So, now, here's the thing. And when high school started and I started having to type out papers, my first year of high school, and keep in mind, we've discussed it before, I went to a very, very small high school. So I was not the only person who didn't have computers at home. Because we lived up in the woods, nobody had computers because people were poor. They lived up in the woods in freaking mobile homes. We don't, those people don't have the money necessarily. I was going to say,
a requirement for a computer at that point by the teachers sounds pretty damned impractical then.
It was for that school at that point. However, we had computers available for us at school if we needed to do them, and the teachers would accept. In my first year of school, they were accepting us handwriting our papers and turning them in handwritten. As it progressed, each year progressed, pressure started coming more as computers became more available. Yeah. Prices went down. It became something that was more accessible for people. There was more of the pressure. What ended up happening by the middle to the end of 10th grade is anytime a paper was due, I would go over to former tech guy Rob's house.
Oh, okay.
And I would type up my papers at his house.
Cool.
Because I could write a 7-page essay in 2 hours.
Gotcha.
Because I don't do a rough draft. I just write.
No, that's your standard college cram, dude. Like, that's what most people do.
It's not even college cram. I mean, how do I do these? How do I do these podcasts? I just have ideas and they flow, and sometimes I gotta edit a little bit as I'm going. But the ideas just flow out, and I work best when my ideas flow out and I don't think about them too much.
No,
let the ideas keep going. That's
how I used to write my essays. What you just said was the way I used to write my essays back in the day. Yep. It was read, understand the material, read it over again, take notes and do all that kind of stuff, and then sit in front of the computer and stare at a screen for God knows how long, because ADHD, and then struggle to write an opening sentence for 30 minutes. And then once the opening sentence is done, the rest of the entire paper flies out. You proofread it real quick, and then you print it out, and you're done.
You have slightly more steps than me. I would read whatever I was supposed to read one time, because I actually have really good retention of reading. It's a weird skill that I have. I can read faster than most people, and I retain 95% of it the first read through. I don't know why. It just happens that way.
That's great. I normally, like, just due to neurodivergence, I will repeat it. I will repeat one line. It will, especially if the previous word can naturally move to if the last word of a line can naturally move to the first word of the same line, I will read the same line over and over about 5 or 6 times before I realize I'm reading the same line.
Yeah.
That kind of shit. And then sometimes shit just gets jumbled into like large, it's just collections of letters at one point, and I'm like not reading words anymore.
Yeah.
Or I'll read an entire page and forget what I read, and then have to start from the beginning of that page.
I've read things and not remembered reading them, but remember everything that I've read, which is freaky. But no, I'm not saying it to like I'm not saying this to like brag or boast that, ooh, I'm a super reader and I'm super smart. It's a weird, freaky skill that I have when it comes to reading. I read really quickly. I can tell you I don't read every single word, but I get every single word. I don't actually physically read it, but it gets in my brain. I don't know how I do it. I've never been able to explain it. I never took any courses to have me read that way. It's just the way my brain processes the words. I can read it, retain 95% of it, just like watching a movie. I watch a movie and I retain the majority of what I watched in a movie. It's sometimes small, little, tiny details that I might miss, or I didn't put every little piece together. But like, I still remember 95% of the movie after watching it one time. It's just, I have great memory retention with those kinds of things.
That's great. I honestly, a lot of the time I won't do that. Unless I have a discussion about it directly afterwards. It'll implant itself in my brain if I actually start talking about something after I view it or read it or something like that.
Yeah. And it's just the different ways that we, this is just different ways people, what's the word I'm looking for here? Experience media and how they ingest the media that they're given. None is better than the other. Knowing which one works for you is good, because then you can make that one work for you. If you know you need to read something the multiple times, you need to take notes. I can't take notes. If I take notes on things, it distracts me from learning it and then I don't remember it. So like when a teacher is lecturing, I cannot take notes. I have to sit and listen to what they're saying. If I take any notes, I will forget what they've said. The notes don't help me. Unless I take like 1 or 2 word notes that make absolutely no sense to anybody else, but those 1 or 2 words key my brain to remember what they said. Just, again, each individual's way of kind of having these things come into them. So I'd read something one time through, and I didn't even remember. My memory on it was so good that if I was pulling quotes from the book, like you're writing an argumentative essay about a novel, if I'm pulling quotes from the book, I already know within 3 pages where to go in the book to find the quote I was looking for, and I've already remembered it. Not necessarily verbatim, but the majority of what the quote is.
Yeah, that's fucking impossible for me, man.
And how it fits into what I'm trying to argue.
In order to do that, I have to read something that's particularly pertinent to, like, it has to strike. In order for me to retain something like that, it has to strike me.
Yeah.
I can then look it up almost forever. Yeah. After that, but it has to strike me.
And again, different ways that we kind of consume was the word I was wanting to use.
Yeah.
Consume media. It's a different ways that we consume it. And so I'd read it the one time, and then I'd sit down and, no problem with the starting sentence. I just dive right into it. And then what I'd find is, like 4 paragraphs in, I finally write the introductory paragraph. And that was the beauty, I thought, of computers, because I originally learned how to type on a typewriter, because that's what we had, was a typewriter.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I could type very good. But when you're doing it on a typewriter, you really have to plan that shit out.
Oh, yeah.
On a computer, it was great because I could be at the 5th paragraph and finally write my introductory paragraph and just be like, I'm going to move you up here. And now, all this flows.
Dude.
And I can do this and that. And that.
Wow. Well, I wouldn't. Yeah, I can understand people being able to do that, but that is something that I can't do.
Oh no, and it's I can't do the structure that they used to try to teach you to do essays, the introductory paragraph, and then like the body paragraphs, and then the conclusion. Half the time, I'd write a conclusion in the middle of the paper as I'm writing, and then have to realize that my conclusion was wrong. It didn't support everything that I had written, and I had to rewrite the conclusion. And then writing a conclusion later was like almost anticlimactic. It really wasn't a conclusion. It was very, very weird trying to write papers in my brain, but I could do it really quickly. So I would go to his house. So I didn't grow up with a computer. They didn't have one until I was 19. I was already in college, and the college had a library, and I used the computers at the library at the college because there wasn't one at home. So I got so used to using them at the library in the college that I didn't even, when my parents finally got a computer at home, it was like, I don't really have a need for it anymore. Thanks, guys. Of course, my sisters got computers when they were in high school. That's a whole different story. Anyway, we are well past break time. We're going to take a break.
Okay.
And when we come back, I'll finish my story of the new computer that James got and what he had to go through, because I guess that's what the podcast is going to be about today.
Sure.
So we'll be back in just a moment.
All right.
Hey friends, this is Mike from the Xennial Chronicles reminding you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Xencron, spelled Xenchron, to keep up to date on all things TXC. And please check out our official website, theXennialChronicles.com, or if that's too much to type, Zencron.com. Thanks again for listening, and now, back to the show.
And we are back.
Oh, all right.
So to continue on James's computer journey, you're right, Mike. I because I didn't have a computer as a teenager, even though that would be an expected thing for the geek culture, and all the friends that I had that played D&D, all the friends that I had that were into movies and comic books. I mean, tech guy Rob was my best friend in high school. He was my best friend past high school. You know, I named a kid after him. Not the name Rob, but his real name. I named a kid after him. He was the best man at my wedding. Best friend bar none for many, many years. Yes, I love you too, Mike. But you know how long of a relationship Rob and I had.
Oh yeah, no question, man.
Still a mistake that you weren't one of my groomsmen, but whatever. You would be now.
Yeah, I am. Actually, I am flattered by that. Still,
you'd be a groomsman. I'd probably have my dad be my best man now, only because I didn't want to give him something to do. But anyway, you can stand next to him. That'd be a cool party.
Yeah.
You, me. So it'd be me, my dad, you, and Scott probably as the groomsmen and whatnot. And we just sit around, and me and my dad and Scott would talk about football, and you'd just drink the beer. So we'd be good.
Yeah, this sounds great.
You, my dad, and Scott can have Jack Daniels together, and I'll just be making fun of the three of you the whole time.
Oh man, we would be the worst groomsmen.
Probably.
You know what? To be completely honest, Scott would hold us together the entire time, like he did at my wedding.
Yeah, well, yes. Scott controlled the raging beast that was standing next to you.
Yes,
standing adjacent to you at your wedding.
Thank God I had only one. I was like, for my personal party. Thank God I had only one. Like there was. I mean, your best
man.
Raging
I don't
beast.
remember his name.
My best man was named Josh. He was probably he was pretty much the most distant from, like, he wasn't within the circle of friends really that were all there. And he had known and met people, but like he was the high school. He was the high school buddy. Like he's the guy that I met in 9th, 10th grade and had been there for such a long time. Like I had known him personally the longest out of everybody that was there. Aside from like my own family. Yeah. But Josh was the one, and he was great. And he was keeping shit together on the wedding portion of it. Like he had me in control. He knew how to handle me and everything I needed to do. And so that was good on him.
And literally I did was show up, get dressed, stand there, and then leave really quickly.
Hey, it was great.
So I really wasn't a part of anything.
Yeah, it was no big deal. I thought that was great. Like it minimized the there was very minimal. It was really funny. Like the owner of the area, the wedding venue owners were there, and they're just like, "Wait, you guys are done?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're gonna get going." And they're like, You guys still have like an hour here. You can stay if you want. And we're like, no, we're good. So we started packing up, and then we hit, and then we hit uptown and all that kind of shit, and just had a good time. But it was pretty funny. But yeah, like
Scott would keep things.
Yeah, he would be able to manage the entire crew.
This, of course, announcer Scott and previous guest on the podcast, Scott.
Yes.
Who we're speaking of. He's got that kind of taking care of business sense of authority, and people tend to listen to him when he's soft spoken, but he can get a lot done with that soft spokenness. And
he's one of those weird he's one of those weird combinations where he's soft spoken, but it's that part of him that is so under control that makes you want to listen to him. And I've only seen him get serious like once in my entire life. Like to get real serious. And it was literally just to stop something from happening. And that was it. I've never seen him in the middle of a conflict because he knows exactly how to avoid it.
Yeah.
He is one of the most in control people I have ever met.
But anyway,
fantastic dude.
Back to the point.
Yes, going back to it.
So yes, all these people. I mean, Rob Tech Guy was heavy into computers. Heavy. Computers were his life.
Yeah.
All my friends that I played D&D with down in the Bay Area, when I went back to see them after the wedding, they were spending their entire time playing, World of Warcraft. And there's literally 6 of them in a room sitting at 6 different computers, all playing World of Warcraft together. And it's just like, okay, they graduated into all those computer things. I never moved into those things. I did the full Luddite thing. When it came to playing, if I came to visit them and we were going to be gaming, it was back to old school tabletop gaming, because James is old school. That's how he does things, and we're going to do it that way for him when he's there. Even getting phones, I was a little behind the time on phones. Still behind the times in the sense that I understand Facebook and I use Facebook occasionally, although I don't really post that much. Unless it's, political stuff during election years. But for the most part, I don't post a whole lot of things. I still don't understand Instagram or Twitter, even though I keep saying I'm supposed to understand those things, even though Mike keeps imploring me, you need to do these for the podcast. Yeah, I'm okay, sure, working on that. I'm glad that you're around to be able to get this thing put together properly and post it on to YouTube and all the podcast sites where everybody listens to it. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe. I'm glad, because I kind of wouldn't know what to do. I could figure it out, but normally I am resistant to those things. Well, in this job, I've had to use computers. I've been on a computer for the last 2.5 months, more in that space of time than I had been my entire life previous.
Boy.
Okay, and I'm feeling it too, in like the eye strain of looking at a monitor that I've never had to deal with before. And my eyes are still getting adjusted. Every day it's a little bit better. Using mouse and keyboard and stuff that I'd sit and have my 2-hour long, typing sessions for an essay or something, but to sit for 8 hours in front of with occasional breaks, getting up and walking around and whatnot, so my ass doesn't hurt too much. But being 8 hours working on a keyboard and with a mouse, even in previous jobs, Blockbuster, I spent a lot of time on the computer, but that's still only, working with a DOS-based system that just has very limited input command, and you're just doing that when you're checking people out, checking movies in, looking stuff up. You're not sitting there the whole time, doing real computer work. That's not real computer work. I'm actually doing things with the computer. I'm doing officey things. I'm having to learn how to deal with Outlook. Dear God.
Yep.
And it's been a thing. So for the first time looking for a computer, I was actually looking for something for a real purpose other than have a computer to attach to be able to get onto the internet and, do basic stuff. I was looking for a purpose for a computer. And Mike was at this point, since sadly we lost Rob Tech Guy back in November. Mike had to shoulder the burden of James has questions about computers. And hey, Mike, is this a good one to buy for what I need? Luckily, Mike has some experience with this in the sense that, again, his wife is in a similar field, or the same field, but a similar job. Her stuff is supplied in a different way than mine is, but at least Mike knows what kind of requirements were necessary, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be the foil for that. Like, hey, is this good? Is this good? Found a good deal. Found something that was relatively inexpensive. Mike was like, my first initial one was like, hey, check this out. And he's like, why would you get that? You can buy, because it was one of those all-in-one situations. And in fact, this one was, the computer was somehow very much like the old original iMacs back when I would. That was the big deal when I was in high school. Very much like those, it's a monitor that the actual computer is built into the back of the monitor. So it's not much more than a laptop.
Hate those things.
It can't go anywhere because it's just a freaking monitor. But the problem is, if the computer part breaks, you just have basically a monitor that's freaking useless.
Yeah,
and if the monitor breaks, you have a computer that's useless.
Right, exactly. There's no extra output for the computer to use. It's the fact that it's everything all at once. Like, whenever you look into those all-in-one deals, you got to be really careful. To anybody who's listening to this that doesn't know computers to that degree, if you are getting something, and I'm not talking like all of the separate pieces in one box, like the monitor is in the box, the computer is in the box, the keyboard and mouse are in the box. Those I consider for the most part relatively fine, especially if you're doing just regular computer shit. But what he's talking about is the computer is built into the monitor. I don't think they even do CD disk drives anymore. They're just USB ports out the back, and then the hard drive is in the monitor, and everything is in the monitor. It's literally one single piece that sits on the desk. Those are the mistakes.
It's basically a laptop that doesn't move.
Yeah, those are the mistake. Those are the problems. Because if something goes out in it, you're going to need an engineering degree to open the damn thing up to get things replaced. Like, technically, to be real, people that know computers, people that grew up around them like I did, been taking them apart for a while and figuring out how to do that, how to look up the parts and do all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, like, engineering on that degree is, if you've been doing it at home your whole life, then it's no big deal. But someone like James, or anybody that's just like, hey, how do I buy it? What do I look for? What specs do I need? All this kind of stuff. Because there's so many different ones out there. The first place you look is the one that lets the computer be the computer by itself in its own box. And then the monitor is something different. Because then if, like he said, if one of them dies, you just swap that out and you're still kicking.
I mean, even with a laptop screens are fairly easy to replace, just a screen. If you damage a laptop screen, they're kind of made to be relatively easy, not super easy.
I would say maybe
not the same as buying
depends.
a new monitor,
right?
But
still
relatively easy.
Somewhat, to a degree.
And at least shops that do computer repair can do those really easy. They really know how to switch out a laptop screen. They do that kind of shit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, but yeah, getting the things separately. So then I'm like, okay, because that was the first thing I said to him. He's like, no, you need to do these things separately. You can go to this place and look at this place and look at this. For what you need, you can go refurbished, because you don't need anything brand new. You're not doing any heavy lifting. You're not doing anything major with it. It just needs to be kind of basic. You want it to be able to do these kinds of things, roughly these specs. And so I went searching, I went hunting, found something I liked. Of course, it being refurbished, they only have so many of them. They sold out. Found another one that had more things than I needed in certain areas, had a bigger hard drive than I needed. But, and by the way, I do want to stress again, anybody listening to this that is like me and from our generation that didn't get computers and doesn't fully understand them, if you have the ability nowadays to get a solid state drive, right, you want that, right? Yes, Mike?
Yes. You want solid state.
You don't, because as it was explained to me, the older style of hard drives, they're a spinning disk. They write stuff on the disk and then write stuff off the disk, and space gets weird on those. That's why you have to do defragmentation on those, and even that doesn't fix it. And they are still governed by, as far as getting your information working, getting your information to you. I'm going to try to describe this in layman's terms, Mike. Not even layman's terms, in idiot terms, in James terms.
Okay.
So that people can understand. Basically, it's still going to be based on the speed at which that thing can spin, if it continues to spin. Which, by the way, if it decides not to spin, you're screwed. But the speed at which it spins is how fast you can get your information. So that kind of can stop you from getting your information fast enough. And that's why sometimes your programs take forever to load.
It can be.
More detail can go into how it saves things in weird spaces because of the way it deletes things and the fact that it writes it onto a disk, very much like a CD or DVD or whatever. So if things are put in the wrong places, it can make it even more difficult to retrieve stuff. That's how you lose stuff on those hard drives. That's why you get errors when you try to load certain things. With the solid state drive, it's basically the same thing. Not exactly, but basically the same thing. Put it in your mind for ease. There's more technical to it, I know, Mike. But for ease,
no, you're doing good. You're doing good.
For ease, it's very much like having an SD card or memory card, newer style memory card, not the old memory cards from like your PS2 or something, but the newer style memory cards where it's just pieces of data stored on a thing that's easily retrievable. You don't have to worry about any fragmentation. You don't have to worry about it being written onto something. It's just saved data that can move around and be accessed. Basically, the only thing that's stopping the access of that is the speed of the electrical connection between the hard drive and what it's bringing out for the computer to see.
Yeah, like the port you're talking about, or how fast the computer itself is, or there's different specs to look at. But to be completely honest, when you're looking at basic information, SSD, from what I have seen, and I can't necessarily call myself an expert, but I am a bit more well versed in the tech. Yeah, I'm going to this essentially corroborates with what James says. SSDs use chips. They're just voltage that's brought in and out of a chip that stores the data, as opposed to a hard drive or a disk, a mechanical hard drive. I have had multiple mechanical hard drives fail on me faster than any other type of, especially faster than SSDs. SSDs, their read-write speed is faster. You're able to stream data. I use that for, like, if you're using anything aside from an SSD for music or like video production, you need SSD.
Stupid.
Yeah, you need SSD. It's too stressing. You can blow, like, I've seen people just wear their hard drives out trying to stream that data. It's not a good idea.
Again, you have something that's spinning and moving in one, and then something that's not moving and just has electrical impulses going through it in the other. Whenever there is something that has moving parts, it has the potential to break easier than something that does not have moving parts.
Right, and not to state that SSD is perfect. Like, there are SSD drives that do fail, but they tend to fail less often.
And it may be a little bit more money, but at this point in time, because they're there, better investment. Same thing for your external hard drives for your video game systems. I made the mistake of getting an external hard drive that is the old style with the spinning disc. The upside of that is I don't delete games a whole lot, so everything that's saved on there is just saved on there. And I'm not too worried about, I'm not one of those people that, like, my game has to load immediately. I'm okay with a little bit of load time. That's all right for me. I can take another sip of my drink, puff on the vape a few times before the game loads. That's perfectly fine with me. You know, take a bite of the hamburger, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not all about super speed, and I don't play online against people, so I don't have to worry about that crap either. But if that was an issue. But anyway, I found the computer tower. Good price for that.
Yeah.
Refurbished. Had everything I needed to make it work right. Got that. Got a Wi-Fi adapter because it did not come with Wi-Fi built into it, because towers don't all the time. In fact, rarely do. And then it was on to getting monitors and making sure I got the appropriate size, making sure I got two of the same, since I'm using a dual monitor setup, and had a little snafu, as Mike learned, because I bitched to him about it, with my first monitors that I ordered, in that I made a cardinal mistake. Now, when it comes to ordering online, I do some ordering online. Specifically, I order my Crocs online from the Croc store, or from Amazon through the Croc store. But I most of the things I order directly from, like, manufacturers online. Some of the gibbets I've ordered for Crocs, those have been, like, third-party people making gibbets, whatever. Sometimes they take longer to come in when you don't buy them from the official source. But for the most part, I haven't bought much in the way of tech stuff. Anything I'm buying online is stuff that I could buy elsewhere, but I don't want to go to the place to buy it, so I buy it online, typically. My wife is the big online shopper. She's constantly ordering stuff from Amazon, constantly doing the research, because she knows if she researches something to death and presents me with all of the information, it's very hard for me to say no for her to purchase it when she's done all the work. When she can answer all of the questions I might have about it already before I ask them, I'm kind of impressed, and so I really don't want to say no. I think she's earned it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I made a mistake when I bought monitors. I was looking for least expensive, because the type of work I do, I don't need good monitors. I don't need 4K. I don't need 120 hertz refreshing, whatever all that crap is. I don't need any of that. I just need basic monitors, right?
Yeah, you need
Just
essentially
simple.
Well, here when you're looking at 4K and that kind of stuff, all that whiz bang stuff that you're talking about, the 120 hertz, the 4K, all that, that's basically just for gaming or watching high quality movies with.
Yeah.
On a computer monitor. Great to have 4K, I guess, if you're playing Call of Duty. But when you're doing something like playing, or whatever the hell, like COD is still a thing, right? Like people still play Call of Duty a lot. Is that still a big deal? I don't even know. Call of Duty's been around for like 20 years. But
I'm so the wrong person to be asking this.
I don't know. I never play it, so I don't care.
I play Animal Crossing.
I don't. I played Dude, I just went through this whole back and forth fiasco over the last 2 weeks to figure out how to get my PS3 hooked up to my recording setup because it was refusing to output. It's a safeguard in the PS3 that I had to learn how to bypass. I was able to do it. It was great. It's fantastic now. But I literally just learned how to get it done today and was able to implement it into my recording system.
You should do that as a tech video for Chronicles Games. I don't know.
That is a really good idea.
But a tech video for that, explaining the tech of how you did that, as just like an additional video of what you had to go through, what you did, so just in case somebody else is wanting to do it, especially as a lead up, because I'm guessing you're doing the recording of this to play games to put on the channel, right?
Yeah.
So tell people how you did it. That's an extra video that you have, and that's a learning moment. I get credit for that.
I like that. I like that. Yes, I'll thank you in the liner notes.
Anyway, thank you.
Or in the video description, rather.
Liner notes are great for me. I have two albums that I actually have thanks in the notes for, and I'm very grateful for those thanks in the notes of both of those albums. So, of course, they're both yours, but still they're albums.
Still, I love that.
They're on iTunes, so
I have a thank you and some liner notes from some people that I very much admire. That I think is probably one of the coolest things ever. So
very cool.
I know exactly what you mean, man. But that being said, with the monitor thing that we're talking about, with what he is doing, I forget if you stated this at one point. Is this computer's for work, correct?
Yes, this is a computer for work for me doing my work stuff. And
so he's got to run his.
It's back end medical stuff, basically. I'm doing the paperwork part of the medical field.
Okay, so which essentially means you're reading text, right?
Reading text, typing things in, moving things from one place to another.
Okay,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Pretty
you're
simple.
not doing gaming. You're not having to see all of the clarity. You need something that allows you to read text bold and clear, and a monitor that is of a lower resolution than the text that you're talking about, or a lower resolution than the big 4K gaming monitors is actually a benefit to you at this degree, because then you can read the text easier.
Oh yeah.
So that's my personal opinion on the matter. Like,
no, agreed. And that's the only purpose of this computer is I got something that will be, this is a job that I intend to have for a long, long time.
Yeah.
I'm talking, 10 to 20 years. I will be having a job definitely in this field, possibly with this same company, because I like the company.
Yeah.
I like the place I'm working for. And there have been people that have been working there that long that are working there currently. So I'd love to stay there.
Yeah.
But that's what this is for that purpose. And I know that something's going to break at some point just because of age, or things they'll age out because of, technology, and I'll need to replace it at some point. But I should be good for a while with what I got in the sense that I got stuff that's decent. I didn't get bare bones, but I got fairly inexpensive stuff. And with monitors, for the most part, even the least expensive ones, for what I'm doing, most of them are going to work just fine. However, this is the secret. This is a secret of online shopping, but specifically Amazon shopping. Very, very big secret. And this is something my wife knows. As she's done all of her shopping and all of her things, she'll think of a thing that she needs. She'll have a thing that she needs, and she'll find every basically version of that thing on, somewhere like Amazon. Or we have so many pets that she does a lot of shopping on Chewy. So many Chewy shipments to our house. Chewy is a website for pet stuff for people who don't know. I know you know. I'm sure your wife does shopping on Chewy occasionally.
She does.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me with all
that. Dude,
you and I
we
both
have a
zoos.
zoo at our house. Yeah.
So, anyway, I made the mistake of finding monitors. I found 3 monitors that were basically roughly in the same price point. They were all within like a $10 range of each other. Okay, not even that, more like a $5 range of each other. And I just kind of picked one of them and ordered them. Ordered two of them for, matching monitors, because you want if you're gonna have a two monitor setup as Mike and his wife instructed me on. You want to make sure you have two of the exact same monitor, so that you have the same size, same kind of color, look, and whatever to them, so you have that kind of a seamless view, right, when you're using them.
Yes, you need two of the same. Exactly. I have two of the same, and as someone who worked on a 2-monitor setup where I had 2 monitors that were technically the same size and resolution, the center of the monitors is different, like the outer binding, and so it is an absolute bitch to get 2 monitors to align to where they're exactly next to each other, and if they are offset, it just messes with my head.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. And so I got two of these monitors. They come in, and the back of one of them was kind of wonky. Not broke, but kind of wonky. But more importantly, I bought kind of one of those stands that has the, you attach to the back of the monitors, and it's the stand built for 2 monitors to be on it. You can move the arms around a little bit, position it how you want, get it at the height that you want. Because I'm one of those weird people. I have super short legs, and I'm short just in total. But I have short legs and a longer torso. So when I'm sitting in a chair, it's really weird. My eye line is higher than you would expect for somebody of my height. Because I'm only like 5'6", 5'7" at best. If I'm standing perfectly straight, I'm 5'7". But I have the eye line and the torso of somebody that's like 6 foot tall. It's really, really weird. So getting that to work in a monitor setup, I wanted to have a stand to make sure I got it exactly where I needed it to. And they wouldn't attach, the brackets wouldn't attach to the back properly. They were wobbly, not very good build quality. So I was like, oh man, these aren't good. So I set it up to return it, which wasn't a problem. Free returns on these, no problem.
Yeah.
I mentioned it to my wife. My wife takes a look at my order. She goes, well, I see what your problem is right here. You made a huge mistake. I'm like, what mistake did I make? She goes, these monitors, they only have like 400 and some odd reviews on them. Like, okay.
Yep.
These other two that you looked at, the other 2 brands you looked at, one's got over 4,000 reviews.
Yes.
And it's still 4 and a little over, maybe 4.25 stars. Like the one that you bought. You bought 4.25 stars.
Right.
This other one that you were looking at has over 6,000 reviews. It also has 4.25 stars. I'm like, okay. It's like, you need to understand the math in this. And I'm like, okay. Do you understand the math in this? She goes,
yes, I do.
No, I'm just saying that you need to understand the math in this. Like, that makes sense, because math is not necessarily my wife's best subject. Chemistry, interestingly enough, is her best subject.
Okay.
She found out when she was in cosmetology school that chemistry was something she absolutely loved and learned the shit out of as it pertains to cosmetology products and the chemicals used in that. She loved it.
Logic.
But math only as it pertained to chemistry. But she was intuitive enough to realize that 4.5 stars for 6,000 reviews is a way better product and a way better reviewed product than 4.5 stars for 400 reviews.
Yes.
Because that means that there are thousands of more people who liked this product. And while there's more people that maybe didn't like the product, the other monitors, it's still going to be a lower percentage and still way bigger. Well, not a lower percentage necessarily, but lower amount of numbers of people these products have more experience of being out there and people using them. And it's like, okay, she intuitively knew this, and that's how she does her shopping. Is she looks for the thing with the biggest reviews, the biggest number of reviews, and still the highest star number. And that's usually the one she goes with, because, hey, if that many people bought it, there's got to be something right in the situation.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And so one of those moments where my wife's intuitive wisdom was something I should have probably listened to, paid more attention to, but didn't. And so I ordered the other set of monitors, got them set up, and I'm feeling good because I have a computer that I got set up by myself. Normally I've needed help getting computers set up, but the last 2 laptops that I had, I kind of set up by myself. They kind of did their own thing. I didn't have to do much. The computer did its own thing. I'd hooked it up to my old monitor to be able to get it set up while I was waiting for the new ones to come in. Got it set up, got it working, got it doing its thing. I was like, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm happy. It's working. I go to try to connect into work. Can't do that. It won't let me connect into my work. And so you were kind of a part of this journey because I kept sending you messages about all the different things that I tried. I did the one thing that I said that I don't do, that I never really, I normally have somebody else do. But I wasn't going to ask my wife to try to work on my my work computer. She'd already come home from driving my car the other day and was freaking out. This is before she got her van back. She's freaking out because my car is apparently smart enough to tell her, which is kind of nice, by the way. This is a nice feature on my car. My car was smart enough to tell her that the brake light was out.
What? The cars fucking tell you when the lights are out now?
This one does. Yes, this one does.
Like, that sounds like a logical thing, like it normally would be. I apologize for sounding so surprised. I have 3 old-ass cars. Like, well, I mean, the newest car I have is from 2000. So, I don't know any of these warnings. Like, I am one of those people that still gets mad at the fact that the car yells at you when you leave your keys in the ignition and open the door. Or
no, this one yells at you for everything. Like when you get low on gas, my Mini, when you get low on gas, like normally you'd have the little gas pump light thing pop up, right? Because I'm one of those people, I run my gas tank down and fill up and then run my gas tank down. I don't fill up at half a tank. I run all the gas out of my tank on a regular basis. That's how I roll. I've always done that.
I personally find it kind of kind of funny that me, as someone that knows the capability that computers have and what computers can do, right? And realizing computers have been integrated into cars gradually over a period of like 40 years.
You're
in order to do this kind of shit.
I'm
like, the car tells you when, like, there's the gas light that tells you when the gas is low. But I've never heard of a car that tells you when the brake light is out. I was actually crazy fascinated at someone had posted a picture of their dashboard, and they said that this was like on Facebook, and they said that the car was telling them that the tire pressure was off kilter. Not that the tire pressure was low in general, that the tire pressure was just a little off on the passenger front tire.
Oh,
it was able to tell them exactly how much tire pressure is in each tire.
Yeah, I have a feature on my car where you have to be moving for it to do the pressure, but it'll tell me the exact amount of pressure in each tire of my car.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, mine also tells me what my oil pressure is. It does an oil pressure check.
Oh,
it can tell me what my oil pressure is.
Just to be able to know all of that information is just fantastic. I get an
alert when I get low on gas. I get an alert. It'll chime at me. It'll give me a little warning thing.
You got a gallon left. You probably should stop.
And then my center cluster, where all my computer stuff is, where you've seen me. I've sent you pictures of the stereo working.
Yeah.
Right? And my center cluster, if I go to the menu, there's a menu. I can scroll into the menu. I can find out what the alert's about. It'll tell me that I'm low on gas, and that it'll tell me how many miles I have to go before I'm out of gas.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
That
literally is like, that's all the guesswork of a fuel gauge. That's what it is. It's like, how much math can I do? I'm less than half, or I'm less than a quarter tank. How far am I away? 45 minutes? Shit, I'm gonna have to stop and get gas before I get home. Yeah. Like, you have to think about it, and I think about it in that regard all the time. All the time.
Well, I all the cars that I've driven before, I had driven them enough to know how long I could keep driving once my gas light came on. Gas light come on. Okay, I know how long I got till I got to fill it up. I can make it to this service station. I know I'm good. Because I had driven my cars enough, and I drive my cars all the way to the end of the gas tank all the time. Just again, what I do. But this light came on, letting her know, light beeping, and then if you went to the menu and look at the diagnostics for the vehicle in the cluster, in the cluster computer screen in the middle of the thing, it tells you, yes, it doesn't even just tell you the brake light's out. It tells you which brake light is out.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, it tells you which one. But she was freaking out because like the thing came on and just before she got home, she's like, your car yelled at me. It said that the brake light is out, and I'm like, what? So I go out and check it. I'm like, oh yeah, brake light's out, no problem. Because it was yelling at me. I was so worried I broke something because she'd been driving my car because again her van hadn't been back yet. Yep. So that had just happened. So I was like, I don't know. She might not want to work on my computer. Plus, it's my work computer, and I don't necessarily, she can't technically access my work site because there's protected information on there. And so I'm trying to figure out how I do this. The tech guy for my job is out on vacation. How do I do this? I start asking Mike. he's like, and then first he's not getting back to me because, he's busy and he has a life and he's not there just to operate at my whim, which sucks, but I have to accept that he has to have his own life, right? You have to have your own life.
Right.
So I start Googling and I start YouTubing, and I taught myself basically, if you're having network connection issues, I can troubleshoot everything on your personal computer to figure out what your issues are, including changing privacy settings, changing firewall settings, changing all these different things that could be possibly interrupting with network connections.
All right. Well done.
Yeah, I had to teach myself all of that.
Hey, man, I have to teach myself how to do crazy shit all the time. I really do.
That's what a lot of tech people do anyway, is if they don't know the answer, they just Google the answer and then apply it, and then they've learned the answer.
Yes. No, that's what it is. People pay me to come to their house to literally just Google shit off the same computer I'm trying to fix.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like 90% of the time, like I have a general idea of what to do. Welcome to the world of tech support, sir. That is the secret. You can learn 90. You can find a solution to about 95% of the problems you encounter, and that other 5% is just intuition, or it's turn the piece off and then turn it back on.
Funny you should mention that, because nothing was happening to make it work. I thought at one point, my Windows update wasn't complete as it was, doing all this stuff to get the computer up and running. I'm like, okay, when my Windows update's done, because I'd already changed a bunch of settings, and I'm like, when the Windows update's done, it's going to revert back to the original settings. So I have to go back in and change all the things that I already changed. Fine, okay, we'll do that. And I have 2 different Wi-Fi adapters I'm using, a brand new one that I bought that gave me great internet connection with everything but my work computer, and then an old one that my sister-in-law had given me that also still gave me great internet connection, but still wouldn't hook up to the work computer. And I tried both of them. I tried changing settings on both of them. I went through everything I possibly could until I was like, okay, I have 2 options left here. I can here's what I'm thinking. It's either a problem on my end, because my other computer, my laptop, which is what I've been connecting to work with, still connected fine, worked fine. So I'm like, a laptop having better Wi-Fi connectivity than the Wi-Fi adapter shouldn't really happen, because the Wi-Fi thing in the laptop is more shielded than the Wi-Fi adapter is. So, I'm not getting this. So either there's some problem with my connection somehow, somewhere within I'm not sure what, or there's a problem at work. So plan was, and I thought this was a good plan, I discussed this plan with you, I was going to hook up my new computer to do the podcast here tonight. We're going to hook up the new computer to do the podcast, download all the software I needed, do it through the new computer. If I sounded okay, if you got my voice recording through there, then my connection's good, so it's not my computer. That seemed like a good way to eliminate that as an issue. Because the one thing that's going to have real show of what our connectivity is something like this. Transmitting voice, that's going to really show what my connectivity is, at least outgoing specifically.
Yes.
That's gonna show me, because I already knew that I could get onto web pages and download shit fairly quickly. So I knew that incoming wasn't a problem, but outgoing may be an issue. And so, let's see. There was one other possible solution, one other thing that I could try to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my boss I was going to try this, because I let my boss know that I had a new computer. I was setting this up, but I was having issues. And my boss was like, oh yeah, tech guy's gone. Okay, I don't know anything about this. That's why we have the tech guy. I'm like, that's about what I figured. I've taught myself a whole bunch of stuff. Let's see. I had one more thought. The thought was, why don't I turn off my computer at work, because I connect into my computer remotely. Why don't I turn it off at work, let it restart itself, and see if that does it. See if turning that off and it coming back on, see if that makes it work. That's the 5%, sir. Yeah. Because 2-3 hours of my time teaching myself a bunch of weird computer stuff, going through a bunch of different things that I had always been told, especially by tech guy Rob, my tech guy Rob. I'd been told, don't do that, don't mess with those things. And I never did, because I was like, he told me not to mess with it. Apparently I broke one of his computers, back in like 1996. So I'm not going to mess with it, right?
Right.
I did all this stuff because he wasn't around to be able to do it. I had to figure out how to do it. Go through all these things. Turn off that computer at work. Or actually restart it. Not even turn it off. Just do a restart on the computer at work. Try to log in. I give it a few minutes. I had to unplug monitors and, do things anyway because my new monitors weren't here yet. I was still using the old monitor. I had to plug it in, get everything going. Turn on that computer. It comes back on. Boom. Connected immediately. No
there you
issue.
go.
No problem.
That's it.
And then, of course, my 2 monitors came yesterday. I was able to get those hooked up, get those set up, get them working perfectly. Was able to work on it today and felt fantastic about it. Needed some adjustment with the monitors. Still got to get used to 2 gigantic monitors that are literally the same size because when they're a computer monitor, that size TV is a small TV. It's what we were used to growing up, but it's a small TV. But computer monitors, those are pretty decent sized computer monitors, sir. 22 inches is a decent size.
Yeah.
But just, still getting used to it. Monitors that are the same color. When I look at green on one,
have the same color scheme to them and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another thing that'll drive me nuts is when, even if they're the same size and they're relatively close to each other, if one has a different color, like a different color scheme than the other one. Nope.
Oh, yeah. And because of the lighting in my office, I had to in my office area, I had to do some adjustment on them. I had to do them on a cool setting, turn the brightness down, turn the backlight down a bit because I like my screens a little bit darker. I don't like them too bright. So I had to mess with those settings, and whatever I did on one, I replicated the exact same thing on the other. It's like I literally had the settings up on one to see exactly what numbers I was at, did the exact same numbers on the other one so that they looked the same. But yeah, with the other 2 screens, I was looking at one, it looked like a green color. The other, it looked kind of like a brown color on the older monitor. I can never get the colors to be the same. So it's getting my eyes used to it, but it's fantastic. And it feels... I feel almost empowered. I feel like I finally, for the first time having a computer, I actually feel confident using the computer as opposed to just having it and being like, crap, what if something happens? What am I going to do? I feel like I could confidently do some fixes on it, do some things to make it work. And even more so than a laptop, because laptops for the most part just kind of set themselves up. You don't really need to do much. I feel like I've actually accomplished something for the first time personally with computers. Because even the old desktops that we had before, my wife did the setup of those because her family did have computers when she was growing up. Her dad was very much into computers. It's kind of a neat little journey to now, instead of being the Luddite James, I'm the semi-computer literate James who spends 40 hours a week attached to a computer.
And I think you're starting to learn you're going to learn these little idiosyncrasies literally just because it's part of your job now. So it is going to be integrated into your daily life. But the thing is one of the things that I get probably a large amount of satisfaction from with this kind of stuff is the satisfaction of accomplishment. Even if it's something I may or may not have done before, the experience is always different every time because you're trying to solve a problem or do something, or it happened this way before. What's the detail that I missed kind of a thing? It could just be that that's what makes me happy is learning how to solve those kinds of problems. But I deal with that on a technical level constantly. It is a regular thing. And with computers, that will absolutely never stop. You're going to use your computer. It's going to be a regular deal until something pops up. And then you're going to have to navigate your way around trying to solve a problem that you didn't realize was going to be a problem at any point in time because everything else worked just fine. Like it's going to be one day you turn it on and something's going to freak out. But then what you're going to do is go through the process of solving this thing. And the satisfaction of learning that you did it all the way to that end is, I feel like it never goes away for me. I know a lot of people end up dealing with that absolute total amount of frustration, but this is conquering a new beast, man, every time. And it feels good to accomplish those things.
Well, and I think for me, the biggest thing is having a little more confidence with doing it than I've ever had before, which is one of the reasons I have stayed away from computers is because I never felt overly confident with them. Because
I can understand
again,
that.
having a friend accuse me of killing one of his jury-rigged computers from years ago. But still, just the idea that I never had a lot of experience with them, so I never had a whole bunch of confidence. So I was always very hesitant with most things that I was doing with the computer, and honestly worried that anything that I would do, I was going to end up breaking something. And it's slowly building on that confidence where I feel like I can take on a few more tasks. I feel like I might be able to do something with it, and it's a damn good thing because, like you say, I'm leashed to with the schooling I went to, the degree I got, the certification I have, the job that I have now that I want to continue being in. I'm leashed to a computer for the rest of my working life. I'm not, I set myself up to have a job working with computers. That's what I'm going to do. It's not working with computers in the sense of taking them apart, putting them back together and stuff, but my hand's going to be on a mouse and on a keyboard all the time for what I'm working. And it's an interesting revelation. I guess it's something that, even though I'm a smart, logical guy, when I went to do this schooling, when your wife told me to do this schooling, or I wouldn't say told me, but recommended this schooling, and I made the decision to do this schooling and to do this thing, I logically knew that I would be spending all my time on a computer. That was kind of the point, is I would get to spend my time at home working on a computer, and it would be great. But I don't think it's one of the few times in my life where I logically knew something, but I don't think I ever fully accepted you are leashed to a computer from now on. And what that would really entail for, I don't know, for me, a massive shift in my whole ideology. It would almost be as if suddenly I started eating American cheese. Something that I have avoided my entire life. By the way, not going to happen, but still,
I wasn't trying to convert you. We were having a conversation about American cheese like the other day.
It was almost the same type of shift of me never thinking I would ever wear Crocs in my entire life, and suddenly I have a collection of like 21 of them.
Yeah,
it's a meteoric shift in my life. By the way, upside of working at home, I wear Crocs to work every day.
You wear shoes at home?
I got this weird thing. I can't function without shoes on.
Okay.
If I don't wear shoes, all I do is sit in one spot. I can't get up and walk around without shoes on.
I feel like I can't walk around the house without socks. Like, I feel like I don't like walking around barefoot. Never did. So I've always got to have socks on. Yeah,
I'm almost never barefoot. I for like an hour or so in the morning, I'm barefoot and then socks and shoes on. I've always worn shoes. I grew up wearing shoes in the house. We only at one point lived in a nice enough house where we had to take our shoes off in the house. The rest of the time, we wore our shoes in and out of the house all the time. We never, my parents never wore shoes, but that's because if my mother wore the least amount of clothing that she had to be decent.
Okay.
And my father was about close same. Summertime hit, and he would literally be wearing a pair of shorts, and that's it.
Fair.
My mother would be wearing a nightgown that was like short sleeve nightgown, and that's it. And I do mean that's it. Sadly, nothing underneath, and that could cause problems occasionally. But the point is, they never never wore shoes if they didn't have to. My mother would take her shoes off whenever there was an option to do so. I've always, if I'm going to get up and accomplish anything, I have to have a pair of shoes on. Once I take my shoes off, if you see me sit down and take my shoes off somewhere, I'm not moving from that spot. It's
okay.
Like it roots me to the ground to not have my shoes on. So it's just it's a weird thing that it's like housework. My wife will do housework with no shoes on, walk around doing everything in the house with no shoes on. I cannot do a single thing without wearing shoes. Even if I'm sitting in my chair, and because I have Crocs, they easily slip on and off.
Mm-hmm.
I'll slip the Crocs off so I can sit more comfortably in the chair, because you can't put your leg underneath you.
Right.
Like sometimes you'll sit with your foot underneath you or something. You can't do that when you have gibbets on your Crocs, because it'll pull the gibbets out. So I'll take the Crocs off and I'll sit in my chair. And if I get up to go to the bathroom, and it is 12 feet, maybe 10 to 12 feet from my chair to the door of the bathroom, I will still put my Crocs on before I go to the bathroom. My wife laughs at me. If I go into the kitchen, which is like 15 feet from my maybe 16 feet from my chair to the fridge.
Right.
If I go into the kitchen, I have to put my Crocs on to go get a glass of water from the fridge. I have to put my Crocs on to walk into the kitchen. And
Okay.
My wife she's like, seriously, you need your shoes on? Where are you going? To the kitchen? seriously? You can't do that barefoot? No, I can't. I need my shoes on. You're weird. I'm like, yeah, but you married me, so it's a weird one. So, but hey, it's fine because it means I get to wear Crocs to work, and that makes me happy. So that's our discussion for the day. It was long and winded, but it definitely was the experience of me learning computers and Mike having to be on the other side of this going, there was even a point, I believe there was a point in there where I told you all the things that, not even all the things, but like a portion of the things that I had done. And you were like, okay, yeah, that's outside my wheelhouse even.
Is that when you looked up YouTube?
No, it was before. I'd already done all the YouTube stuff. I had done the YouTube and the multiple Googlings. When I sent you what I had done, I described like all the different things that I was doing for network configuration stuff. You're like, that's even farther than I go.
Well, yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you is like, I was surprised. I should have mentioned it to you, but you told me you'd gone through the whole list of stuff and I'm like, oh, okay, well, you've done all this. And I'm like, well, then I can't find out what the problem is. Like you've done all the things I would do. And so it was really funny because it didn't hit me until you mentioned that you had gone through all of it here in the podcast, how much that you had actually done. And I'm very proud of you for it. But the thing is that you went through the entire checklist and I'm like, that's the checklist. Like, what do you do? And I didn't know that there was a way to remotely turn your computer off and back on. Or did you have to call somebody and be like, turn my shit off and on?
No, we can do that. I can do that remotely.
Dope.
I can restart.
You can power cycle remotely. That's cool.
I had to do it once before because I was having issues connecting with something. Mm-hmm. And the tech guy was there and I sent a message to him like, I am not able to do this. What is going on? He's like, oh, okay. Yeah, you just need to restart your thing. Or I can do it for you. I'm like, I can do that from home? Yeah, just, like you normally restart a computer. I'm like, oh, I can do that.
That's awesome.
I can do that from home.
That is awesome.
So I, boop, and that fixed that problem. And that's why it came into my brain that, okay, restarting the computer from home fixed that problem like 2 weeks ago. Maybe it'll fix this problem too.
Yeah.
And it did.
Yep.
By the way, have you ever thought about the fact that when somebody's like not feeling the best, their brain's not working right, somebody will suggest, why don't you just go take a nap, see if you feel better afterwards? That's the human equivalent of shutting off the machine and turning it back on.
Of rebooting? Yes. Hey, naps help, man. They do.
I wish I could take them. Anyway, Mike, where can people be listening to James and his journey with his new computer?
Well, you could be listening to us on our website, thexennialchronicles.com or zencron.com. If you don't want to type that much, you also can look us up on at the Xennial Chronicles on multiple podcast platforms, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, I think, Google. I know we're on Google. Anyway, I never remember exactly which ones we're on and which ones we're not. But search us, do it. And on top of that, we're also on YouTube as well. So please head on over to YouTube, search for the Xennial Chronicles there, and make sure that if you're listening to us on YouTube right now, make sure that you click the like button at the bottom of the video. And next to that like button, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And then, James, what's that next thing you got to do?
Click the bell.
That's right. Make sure that you click the bell so that you get notified the next podcast in video format that we actually put out on that page. All of our podcasts show up there on YouTube. So I believe that's it for me. What about you, sir?
It's been a while since I've said this, but really we really want more subscribers on YouTube. Basically because it's one of the few places that you can kind of track that a little easier. I mean, they do track it on the podcast sites, but YouTube's kind of, everybody does YouTube. Not everybody listens to podcasts. A lot of people do. And I'm glad you are. But we want to get enough subscribers so that we can get that custom URL thing. One of these days, that will make sense to me as I'm learning more about computers. I just know Mike wants us to have it because it's important.
It is. It makes things easier. It makes it will give me less to It'll give me less to say at the end of these podcasts.
Make Mike's job easier, please.
Please.
And while you're at it, don't just make his job easier for the Xennial Chronicles. Make it easier for his 2 other pages. We mentioned them already, or at least one of them already on here. First one is a page that he has with his wife on YouTube, Chronosode Games. This is Mike and his wife playing video games in chronological order of the story, not in order of when the games were released. So any game that has a big universe with a big story involved in it, these are the type of games they're going to be playing. Hopefully soon a tutorial video for how to record streaming gaming on a PS3 and the hoops that you have to jump through and the hacking that Mike had to do.
Yes, yes.
You see, he's better at the hacking than he is at the gameplay. So
it's actually kind of an interesting way that you have to go about doing it in order to make it happen, but it's actually pretty fun.
Save that for that one.
Yeah.
Save it for that one.
Okay.
That gets people listening to that too.
Okay, yeah.
Also, listen to and check out Mike's other page, Ruling Note Music. This is Mike talking about everything music related. He does tech pieces on there for music stuff. He gives you history of artists, albums, that kind of thing. Check it out. Like both of those. Subscribe to both of those. Watch all the videos, give yourself something to do when you're bored or working from home and pretending that you're in a meeting, but in fact you're just streaming on the internet.
Exactly.
Thank you all for listening, and you have a nice week.
Y'all have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in, friends. The journey continues next week.